Okay, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for getting us here together to discuss these vital issues in different agricultural aspects. And it was really very impressive when we talk about innovation in agriculture. So I will be presenting about writing scientific papers. I know those who are really benefiting of this are graduate students and young researchers. I know those eminent researchers, maybe they have published a lot of papers and they have been to the experience in this area. So Okay, so the concept is really the process of communicating research findings, where a lot of people are doing research, but do we end up really getting this research to the people and getting the results out to the people and to the benefit? So in this way, researchers can understand, evaluate, and we can replicate and build upon the work where anybody is doing in this essence. So before starting the research, actually, we have to think too much in what we are doing. So we have to go for a well-planned research topic and clear objectives from the very beginning. I don't want to go to the definition of research because I know everybody knows exactly what is this, but when we go to the researchers, we go to the scientific writing, and the community which we are dealing with, we have to go to that end. So the point is to get our research outcomes, and the outcomes should be either in scientific journals, books, articles, website and digital platforms, interviews, conversation, questionnaires, communication media. And this is actually one of the concepts that we researchers do a lot of research, but we end up also sometimes need to transfer our research to the public, to the community, so the people would know what we are doing at the end. So the objective of this workshop is to understand structure and style of scientific papers, learn effective writing strategies, and at the same time to recognize ethical consideration in writing. Today we have a big issue in ethical considerations in writing scientific papers and in research, and I think we will give some examples. So the expected outcome comes from this workshop. By the end of this workshop, I think you will be able to structure a scientific paper, improve clarity and citation properly, and understand the submission process of the paper. So, importance of scientific paper writing, why we are doing that. One of them is to communicate knowledge, building scientific reputation, where I think most people are running to that business, career opportunities, advancing science and innovation, and here this is one of the really most significant things, is how to advance science and innovation. Today, we are much more oriented to innovation in scientific research, much more than before. And at the same time, we have to work to influence policy and practice. We have to influence the policy of agriculture, the policy of health, the policy of the country, sometimes by the research and the outcomes of our research. At the same time, we have to work for technological advancement and work for the increasing of research impact. And in this case, we have today everybody is working, well, I'm publishing papers in Q1 journal, Q2 journals, in Scopus journals, in those top journals and in those high caliber journals. So this is one also of the outcomes of your work. So when we go to this part, at the very beginning, we have to define our problem. We have to gather the data and information. We have to build the hypothesis of our paper or our work, and at the same time to test the hypothesis and then take the most suitable results and solutions, writing by the end writing of the research. So I think everybody is reading papers, everybody is doing this work, but at the same time, sometimes it's hard enough in order to publish the results, although some people, they are getting good results, but the problem with the writing the paper, which is an art, and every person can develop that this art and really can publish papers in a good and high caliber journals. So when we look at the type of the paper we are publishing, it can be an original research article, or it can be a review article, it can be a short communication or brief report, it can be a case study or case report. People in medicine, many of them, they publish case reports. Actually, they are not going to the publications like what we are doing in agriculture. Also, we can do a meta-analysis and systemic reviews. And sometimes also we publish editorial and commentaries in the journals. Once you get to a journal, you read some commentary in the journal where somebody did that. When we go to the structure with the paper, we have a title. A title of a paper should be concise, informative, and at the same time, it reflects the main finding of the study. Many papers, when I review, when I just look at the title of the paper, sometimes I feel the person is not doing a good job because of the title he chose or he or she is choosing for the paper. Abstract, usually we go with 150 to 250 words, including the background or the purpose of the study or the research, methods, key results, conclusion. When you read the abstract, it reflects the whole paper. So if you could not write really a very precise, concise abstract, that will give the reviewer a chance to reject your paper from the very beginning of reading your paper. And it should be also clear and self-contained, the abstract, keywords, 4 to 6 terms, that when people go to this search tools, they can search your paper in the right direction. Then for the introduction, it should give the background of the work you have been doing, explain the research problem, state the objective and hypothesis. Then we go to the material and methods which describe the study. We will go to the details. And one thing you have to consider with the materials and methods, and this morning I was discussing with the people who were presenting, it must be reproducible. If I go back and do your research, then I have to really can follow up the right manner in order to do the work. For the results also, you have to present the findings clearly with all the means available for us as tables, figures, etc. And at the same time, we have to avoid interpretation, just to state the outcomes with the results. Many people, they lose the results by start to explain the results, which sometimes lose the concept of the result. In the discussion, also, we have to interpret the results, compare with the previous study, and explain the implications, and highlight the limitations, suggest future work. Then we go to the conclusion. I will go on details and in some of the pitfalls in each one of those ones. Then the conclusion will summarize the findings and the significance, but conclusions should not repeat the abstract. Many people, when they go to the conclusion, they go back and repeat most of the abstract another time in their conclusion. And the references also depends on the journal, how you cite your references. So what I say here, it's the anatomy of the paper. It's really an anatomy of the paper. You have to know very well how to get these parts together in a manner where you convince the reviewer and convince the scientific community that you are really doing the right and the good job. So these are the different parts where in every part I have to make sure that I'm doing the right job. But the very beginning is the abstract, but the abstract is not the first part you do in the paper. The abstract should be the last part in the paper, in writing the paper. So when you plan the paper, we choose the topic. We are choosing key points, select topic that is really relevant to the field, original and contribute to the knowledge, feasible and within time frame and resources, and also at the same time use recent literature. Sometimes when I go to papers, I'm reviewing papers every month. I review at least 2 or 3 articles. When I go to the papers and I see that a person putting these old references in his paper, I just feel that the person is really not following what's going on, because every day you get something new. Just last night I have a paper to be published, and I got another paper for somebody else publishing almost in the same way. My paper is there and it's accepted, but the other person is really getting a paper out look like almost what I'm doing. So, and here also we have to choose a topic which is really reflects that this is a hot topic, this is a topic where people are interested in this. So here, usually when you choose a topic, it should be balanced novelty, feasibility, and significance, because that's why how the people will be looking at it. So understanding the audience, I mean the people who are going to read your article, identify who will read your paper, academic and researchers, practitioners or policymaker, general scientific community. So then we have to adjust the tuning of the language to the readers, so they will really, when they read the paper, they will see that this fits what they really need. And align the paper with the scope and the aims of the journal. Many times people, they send the paper, and when I go to the paper, it doesn't fall in the scope of the journal. So why you are putting all the effort and you are doing it according to the instructions of the journal, and you're wasting all of that time, and by the end your paper doesn't fall in the scope of the journal. So this is actually one of the other points where we have to look at. When you start conducting a literature review, there are some key points. You have to look to the credible resources, focus on recent and high impact research, identify in it what's known, unknown, where are the research gaps. So you build your literature review in a way where it's a strong literature review that really leads to the other parts of the paper in the right manner. When you go to the question and the key question in the paper, also you have to be specific and clear. It has to be researchable and measurable. It has to be relevant, and you have to state your hypothesis really in a very clear manner. Also, we will go to the organizing the data and the results, and in this case, we have to go with accurate and consistent data. We have to manage the data the right way, and also we have to organize our tables, figures, graphs, and by the end also we will go for an easy interpretation for the results by the end of that. So let us start with the anatomy of the paper itself. We start with the title and abstract. Good title is key for the paper. Sometimes really you just see the title, you see that this is really a very interesting paper. So sometimes even as a reviewer, I go to help in order to publish the paper because the title really is very alluring. So the title should be clear and concise, informative, specific, attractive, and rich with the keywords and the terms in it. And at the same time, like sometimes you go for somebody's writing studies on plants, while another one say genetic diversity of wheat varieties and the drought stress in Jordan. When you go for a title, then the title itself will get you to the point that this is really a quality work where I have to go. Abstract also at the same time, we are going for 150, sometimes 250 words. When I get a paper for review and the person is writing me 500 words as an abstract, but the instruction of the journal saying that should not exceed 300. So from the very beginning, you look for somebody really who is not a professional person in writing his paper the right manner. So in this case, what was done, why was it done, how was it done, what were the main results, what is the significance. So this is very important in the structure of the abstract. Should be structured, concise, self-contained, and use active voice. Sometimes you see people also, even in the language, they get you to a weak abstract in this situation. So for the tips of writing, keep it short and concise, avoid unnecessary details or references, follow the legal order with very statement, introductory, go to objectives, methods, results, conclusion in the same abstract. So if it's not that way, then it will be For those eminent researchers who are really publishing a huge number of papers, maybe some of the work is not necessary for them, but I'm really thinking of graduate students and for the young scientists. Write the abstract after finishing the entire paper, use clear formal and scientific language. It's really misleading if somebody starts with the abstract from the very beginning. When I started my life after finishing the PhD, I got a job in one of the universities in the States. Then I was on my own. I sent 3 papers for publications. Then the 3 papers came back to me rejected. I thought, well, I am a failure person. I could not do it anymore. Then when I went to the comments from the reviewers, studied them very well, worked on them, sent the papers back, then I got the papers after 2-3 months accepted with revision, then start revision, then the process became very easy. So it's sometimes really hard, but once you learn the art, you're still going in the right direction. So in this case, we avoid long sentences. Usually, long sentences, you lose the meaning of the sentence, you lose the meaning of the result when you are going for long sentences. So I will move ahead. So when we go to the introduction section, the introduction should introduce the topic, explain why the research is important, provide overview of what the reader can expect from the paper, and at the same time engage the reader interest and motivate the person. Sometimes when you are reading the introduction of the paper, you feel you are really very, very happy to continue the work in order to go through the papers. I mean, there's something very important while you are reviewing a paper for a journal. Crafting the research background, also summarize the existing knowledge, cite recent and relevant studies. It's really very bad when people, they go for old references, as long as there are really recent references where you show where people at and why you are moving ahead in that direction. And at the same time, highlight the research gaps and lead the reader toward a study rationale. This is the point here. At the same time, also state the problem, and the research objectives should be clear in your introduction. The hypothesis also should be very clear, and in this case you have to use the right sentence in that. Like some people, like a title here, fertilizer affect plant growth. While when you say applying nitrogen-based fertilizer will significantly increase wheat yield under drought conditions. So in that case, when you read the paper, you see that you are going in the right direction. For the methods section, here it has to be clearly stated with all the statements that lead to the study time, lead to the work which have been done in a clear manner, along with the experimental design used in the work. So also equipment, you say, well, I used HPLC, but what HPLC and what kind of column, what kind of work in that case? So because if I'm gonna go back and repeat your experiment, then I have to be familiar very well with how to do it step by step, and at the same time, everything has to be clear with the control, with the treatments, with the intervention, with the everything which was in the experiment. Also ensure reproducibility, which is very important. This morning, maybe 2 times I asked the people who were presenting their paper about the reproducibility of the paper, because if somebody is repeating the work, should really do it in the same manner and in a good manner. So it should provide enough detail in this case, and also you have to be very specific with the sample, with the measurement techniques, with the data analysis, and any supplementary materials should be clear in this case. So you structure your paper from the very beginning. You start with your introduction, you start with the materials and methods. So once you finish part, then you go to the second part with a very structured manner in this case. Also at the same time, we have to go with ethical consideration. Many studies we use a human, we use animal, we use something like that. So you have to get the ethical approval. You have to get the ethical approval, otherwise it will be difficult. If I read a paper and you say, well, I went to the hospital and I took samples from the people, well, do you have the approval to take samples from the people in the hospital? Do they allow you? Do they allow you to go to their files and people who work with the nutrition and they go to the hospital, do the people allow you to go to and look at their files in the hospital? If not, then you are really doing a wrong job. At the same time, you have to think of data privacy, confidentiality, integrity. Also, you have to disclose any conflict of interest. That should be very clear. So when we go to the results section, the result actually should be that should present the data clearly in this case. The more you are clear, the more the reviewer will be happy with the paper. Sometimes any vague sentence in the results sometimes leads to the rejection of the paper. The reviewer is not sitting there just enjoying life for you to do your work. The reviewer is sitting there to review a work which is precisely, concisely done the right manner. If you are doing a loose work, I could not sit there to fix the loose work for you. I'm just sitting there to evaluate a paper, not to fix a paper and to re-amend the paper for you. So you have to put the purpose of the result section. In this case, you have present finding objectively, summarize key result, provide with the evidence, and at the same act as the foundation for the discussion section. Because when I move from the results to the discussion, I should really move in a very smooth manner in this case. And at the same time, it should be presented logically with sequence of objectives, with descriptive data, with subheadings. And also, the subheading should be very clear, because when I go to the discussion, sometimes you see some people discussing one aspect before the other aspect, and you lose the track in his article while you are doing the evaluation. So at the same time, choosing the right metrics. Sometimes you go for a paper, you see somebody saying milligram per liter, and at the same time saying micromolar. Micromolar and milligram per liter should not go in the same paper at the same time in the same paper, because this is a very big mistake in that case. So some pitfalls in data presentation is to you have to avoid raw data. You have to not mix methods, results, and discussion. You have to make them very clear, and you have to prevent overcrowding while you are doing with too many figures or numbers, and always maintain consistency. Also with the tables, sometimes I get tired of reading a table. Why you are giving me one full page table and you are putting all of these numbers? I don't need all of these numbers. You can, if a table is more than 3 to 4 columns, it's becoming hectic, and for the reviewer, it's really not an enjoyable paper. And you see that people just dumping all of these data in the tables, and they are putting in front of you something which is not reasonable to be there. Using tables and figures also. Tables present detailed numerical data, figures also at the same time, and also they should not be redundant. Sometimes you find the data in the table and the same data in the figure. So why you are presenting the same data 2 times in the same paper? So in this case, it has to be clear, concise. The title of the table should read the table. Everything on the table. I don't need to go back to the materials I wanted to read there to know what is in the table. I have to see in the table that everything is available in front of me while I am reading it. And at the same time, avoid overcrowding. As I said, if the table is 3 to 5 columns, I would say that's good enough, instead of putting many columns and huge data. In the figures also the same thing. You have to do your figures in the right manner, and the more they are clear. Some people sometimes they go for figures where they do like a certain sectioning and something where you have to keep tracking the figure just to know how to read the number you need. It should not be that. It should be concise, simple, but it should not be that complicated figure in order to get the reader in front of a challenge to know how or what you need to tell him. So this is the case. These are tables. The more your table is smaller, the more your table is less columns, the more it will be clear even for the reviewers and for the reader to go through. And also at the same time, when you captioning and referencing visuals, every table figure needs a number and title, and it should be also self-explanatory, so you don't need to go and look for how to find the meaning or what some person is really need in this case. Also avoid interpretation in results. Results is result. You don't need in the result to say this is increased because. There is no because here. This is not a discussion. Go ahead and say that increasing nitrogen resulted in increased that such kind of amino acid in so and so, without going for any interpretation or any other mixing. It's because mixing will confuse the reader. Once you start to mix, you start to confuse the evaluator or the reader. You maintain objectivity. Actually, neutral language always obtain the objectivity. Like when you say the yield increased by 15%, or avoid the treatment was highly effective. It was highly significant. It was highly, and there's no I mean, you don't see just sentences. People, they are just throwing them everywhere. When we go to the discussion section also, we have to interpret the results. We don't repeat the results. Sometimes I review papers, a lot of the papers. When I go to the discussion, the person is getting back and repeating the results again and putting discussion. I don't need that. I have read already the results, and just please go ahead and give me your interpretation for your results. Don't repeat the numbers again. So in this case, you have to explain what the results mean, and at the same time connect the finding, the research question with the hypothesis, highlight significance of the study, and move beyond facts toward insight in a very good manner. For the interpretation also, you have to link the results to the research objective, discuss trends, pattern, unexpected outcomes, use cautions when you are talking, like use the cautions and evidence-based language. So when you explain your result, I will keep track that it's in the right manner. Also avoid over-interpretation. Some people, they just make it hectic with interpreting the result. That's okay. Just make it simple and go in that direction without an exaggeration in that case. Also, we compare with the previous studies. If there are no previous studies, you just mentioned that this is for the first time this has been reported. That's good enough. I mean, you didn't need to just keep looking for something which is not related to your work and you make it related to the work, and you mention that this discussion because of so and so, which is really not related to the results you have in this case. Also, at the same time, if there are contradictory results, you have to express that. Not all the time you add nitrogen fertilizer to a certain plant, but the growth of the plant is not increased. Maybe you find 20 papers, adding nitrogen is increasing the growth of the plant. But if your plant is not increased, the growth was not increased because of adding nitrogen, that's not a problem, that's not a curse, this is a result. But you have to say that this is in contradictory with other people, or it is in line with other people, depends on your result. Also, discuss the limitation, like show transparency and integrity, help reader interpret finding realistically. I mean, you don't need to complicate it. Anticipate criticism before reviewer raise it. Leave the criticism to the reviewer. It's not your job to do the criticism. I mean, you don't have to criticize other people's results because your results is doing that way. No, the reviewer will criticize your paper and will give you the points of how to improve it or how to accept it or what are the jargon in this case. Okay, so let us suggest for future research. Also in the discussion, you have to mention about important future research, like in this case, demonstrate the knowledge gaps, inspire follow-up studies, show how your work contribute to long-term progress. So in this case, that you will keep it open for the people, that there is still something to be done. Nobody was finishing the science in that area. Once you did your paper, still it's an open venue for other papers and for more work. At the same time, suggest for future work. In this case, you can suggest for what future research is needed. In this case, let me just go. Okay, so the other part of the paper is the conclusion and recommendation. When you go to the conclusion, you summarize the core finding of the study. Many papers I'm reviewing, I see that people repeat part of the abstract in the conclusion. You don't repeat the abstract in the conclusion. The conclusion, it should be summarize the core finding, provide final take-home message for the readers, bridge the gap between results and real-world application, and leave the audience with a clear understanding of the study's contribution. So a conclusion must summarize the entire paper and highlight its key point as well as realize its main purpose. So in this case, we focus on main outcomes rather than details. Also relate the finding with the research objective, avoid introducing new data, use concise, impactful language. Some people sometimes they put a sentence in the conclusion which is not related to the whole work. So how did you come to this conclusion? I mean, why you are ruining your work with a statement like that? So for the recommendation also, we provide the practical application, suggest policy, industry, research-oriented in the recommendation rather than just repeating what have been done in, before. So like here you say policymaker, this is a statement, policymakers should incentivize organic farming practice to improve crop yield, sustainability. So you go for a recommendation which is going to be feasible for the people rather than repeating. Also, you have to highlight how the findings can be used in real-world context and at the same time apply the insight gained for your study. Well, these are some of the concepts. For the reference and the citation, actually today it's very easy for everybody to do the citation, but at the same time go for referencing in your paper, but at the same time avoid the plagiarism. Today we have this authentication programs. We can check how much in the paper you cited or you have used other people's work. And also every journal, it has its system of working, so you have to check all the instructions of the journals in order to go in the right direction of writing your references. So when you manage the references, collect the right citation, and at the same time avoid using 3-4 references which they are telling the same concept, the same idea. Why just repeating yourself all the time? People, they just repeat themselves all the time. I will go a little bit fast. Okay. At the same time, as I said, we have to avoid the plagiarism. Plagiarism, sometimes it's direct plagiarism, where people, they copy from other people. Self-plagiarism, where they are using that, and paraphrasing plagiarism. And these days, many people these days, they are using the artificial intelligence sometimes in their papers. By the end, sometimes also, if you are not using the right program, sometimes also they lead you to some mistakes. And when you go and, there are programs now you can go and read if the paper have been helped by the artificial intelligence or not. Okay, so I will move for the last minutes for me. I will move to the, okay, for the grammar, as I said, also there are some programs which you might use to check your grammar in the paper. At the same time, sometimes, I think it's about a month ago, I received a paper to review, and the person was used active voice and passive voice in the same, sometimes I mean, this is really crazy. I mean, you have to use the language the right way in your paper. So also, usually it's good after you finish your paper, keep it 1 or 2 days. Don't send the paper right away when you finish it. Keep it 1 or 2 days until your mind is not busy or not, because by the end, the whole paper is in your mind. Just leave it 2 days, and after 2 days, get back to it, revise it, read it, and make sure that really you will find a lot of things sometimes you are missing when you are just keeping yourself away for 2 days from the paper. Don't send it right away. You finish it, you send it. Sometimes you get a mistake that, well, why did I do this? Because don't hurry in that. As I said, also we have to make a proofreading. Sometimes you might find somebody to proofread for you, so you can make sure, because any typos, any punctuation errors, any formatting errors, in this case, it's against you when the reviewers, they get the paper. Sometimes people, they lose excellent papers. People, they have excellent results, but they lose them because of the situation of not really taking care of some of those steps by the end in this case. Also, when you submit your paper, you have to follow your work in the right direction. Some journals, you go through the track. I mean, you track your paper. They will not send you that we have reviewed your paper and the reviews are ready. I mean, you have to get to your paper, use your username, and then make sure that your reviewing article or the reviews has come or not. So this is one other point. I think most of my students who are working with me, I always teach them that make yourself as a reviewer. Put yourself in the shoes of the reviewer. So read your paper as a reviewer. Read it as a reviewer. In that case, you will get your work in the right direction. One of my students, she's still working with me. She worked for me the last 4 years in different projects. She has more than 80 papers. And she is the person who writes the paper from A to Z. But all the time, she has never sent the paper right away while she finished it. She go again and put herself like a reviewer and go the procedure like, if I'm reviewing this paper, what's wrong and what's true? So you save a lot of time. Why sending a paper and you wait for 2, 3, 4 months and then you get your paper back and you have, because of some mistakes you are doing in the paper. So we have to go to the submission process, and also when we get the comments from the reviewers, also we have to work the comments of the reviewers. Sometimes people, they jargon with the reviewers. You don't have to jargon with the reviewer. You have to work like what the reviewer is asking you is true to do it. If it's not true, you need to discuss it in a simple manner rather than, because I need sometimes I get people sending me 3-4 pages that my review was not true. So why you are sending 3-4 pages? Just tell me that this is the concept of this. One of my papers, I sent a paper on tissue culture, and I was working on the phosphorus in the paper. Then the phosphorus in the tissue was about 3 times the phosphorus in a plant grown in soil. They sent me that the phosphorus is too high in the plant tissue. But I sent them that this is a tissue culture work, this is my raw data, and everything is right. So it happens that the reviewer who did the reviewing of my paper, he's a specialist in soil, in plant nutrition, but he is not a specialist in plant tissue culture. So he doesn't know that the tissue will contain that much of phosphorus. So after sending the explanation, it went through without any problem. So sometimes you don't have to say something that the reviewer doesn't understand or etc. Okay, I will stop here, but this whole presentation is on with the system here within the computer. So I think undergraduate students, young researchers, they really need to look at this information with the details. But for those eminent researchers, I apologize because I'm sure you don't need to listen for about 45 minutes about how to prepare your paper. So Thank you so much. Some questions or comments? Yes, sir. Yeah, you have microphone?
Thank you, Professor, for giving more insight. I just want to more clarify, more clearer regarding the what is the best effective way to respond to conflicting the reviewers' comments.
Yes.
Right. So for sometimes I got some, made me headache. For example, that's I put like a soil type. Soil type is a podsol, but if another reviewer say just put spodosol, so this made me headache. So what is the best effective way to respond for this situation?
I didn't understand your question. It's the reviewers. Actually, really, I don't like the jargon with the reviewers too much because, a reviewer, it's hectic when you get, like every month, 3-4 papers to review. And you go through the papers, review it. I'm sure some of the colleagues here, they review more than that. But it's really hectic work. Especially you sit, you read the paper, you have to do the report, you have to do everything and send it and something like that. So once you get the comments from the reviewer, the best way is really to answer them and to go in details and answer the comments of the reviewers. But if anything is contradict, make it in a simple way that this is contradict with so-and-so and prove it. But not go through, well, I don't think the reviewer understand my point. I don't think the inter-reviewer did so and so and so. Some people, they do it. I told you, in my life, I got more than 3 or 4 times people sending me 3-4 pages, making me that I am not the right person to review the paper. But I reviewed their paper. Answer the questions. Why you just got that? But it's by the end, you have to respond to the reviewers. I don't like the jargon with the reviewers, but I like it to answer them, unless otherwise you have a proof of a certain concept or something like that. If 2 reviewers say your paper is rejected, what can you do? Can you just send them saying the journal that my paper should be published? It's rejected. What can you do? Although sometimes very good work get rejected. Sometimes really it's very good work get rejected. But it's good to take the comments of the reviewers and go for another journal. If it's okay, well, thank you so much. Yes, please. Can we give the
now we have artificial intelligence, and I just want to ask your comment about how if we write a paper by using ChatGPT or any other AI.
Some people are working outside there, so I could not hear very well.
No, we have AI, right? Artificial intelligence, and then we can do so many things easily. And what's your comment as a reviewer? If I wrote a paper by using that,
yeah. I could not answer your question because it depends on the journal. Some journals, you are working there. There are journals now, they test the paper if it's somehow done or use the AI. And there are some programs where you can get the answer for this question. I mean, you just run the paper and you can know if an artificial intelligence is involved in the writing of the paper. At the same time, you know, we do the similarity. Most journals in the world, they don't accept more than 15% similarity. I mean, very minor journals, you might exceed the 15% similarity. Although sometimes similarity, maybe 60% of the similarity, it comes from the materials and method. Because you write your materials and method, and you publish the paper 3-4 papers before, and you are using your method. So most of this, it's in the materials and method. Sometimes, yes, it's in the literature review and something like that, but usually it's in the materials and method. But for the artificial intelligence, so far, I mean, it's contradictory issue. Some journals, it's taboo. I mean, if they find any possible way of using artificial intelligence in your paper, they would not accept it. Just about 3-4 months ago, I had a lady from the computer engineering, and we did something, and she did some part of the things we used. Then I got a letter from the journal saying that after checking the paper, there was some help from artificial intelligence. We don't accept that. I don't know if some other journals they accept, but it depends on the journal, depends on the instructions of the journal. And usually I say it, sometimes the instructions of the journal, I mean, you are not happy with the instructions, but you have no choice of doing it. Sometimes they ask you to put something in the paper which is, you see it not realistic, but that's the instructions of the journal, you have to do it. I don't know if I answered your question or not. Thank you. Okay.